is me, Demetra Kaye of the Demetra Kaye Show here on YouTube and a proud contributor of the African Diaspora News channel. If you could do me a favor and please subscribe to all channels and like this video, I would greatly appreciate it. So today we're going to talk about that of Eleanor Northington out of Indianapolis. She's a 43-year-old mother of three that was, and I'm just going to put it out there, was murdered while at church, okay? Now, this actually happened in 2019. Unfortunately, I just heard about it the other day. But what happened was Eleanor was at church, and she was suffering a mental breakdown, if you will. So it was said that she suffered from schizophrenia and bipolar disorder. And so while at church, she was having an episode and became uncontrollable, if you will. And so she began to, as they say, assault and spit on some of the people at church. So, you know, she was acting erratically, for lack of better words, and they called the police on her. Now, once the police got there, it was about 5 officers. It is said they tried to restrain her, and then she began to spit on them and assault them as well. Of course, this is what they are saying, okay? And so as they were trying to constrain her or retain her, rather, she, you know, was hitting him and all of that, and they wrestled her to the ground and managed to put the handcuffs on her. But before they did that, the pastor, okay, the pastor there at, the name of the church is Mount Calvary Apostolic Church, he somehow managed to put a cloth over her mouth, and then they wrestled her to the ground and had her face down in a shag carpet where she could not breathe. Now, Miss Northington said, I can't breathe, right? And we've heard that a countless amount of times, especially with that of Eric Gardner there in New York, who was murdered by the NYPD. We've heard that I can't breathe. And so it said pretty much the officers do what they normally do, and that was ignore her until she stopped breathing. And then, you know, they uncuffed her and tried to give her CPR and all of that. Now, unfortunately, Eleanor succumbed to her injuries, if you will, 2 days later. For lack of a better word, she died. All right. Now, coming to 2000, and again, it happened in 2019, coming to 2021, her daughter, Deasia Montgomery, is filing suit on the Indianapolis Police Department and the city of Indianapolis and the church. She is suing the police department for violating rather her mother's 4th and 14th Amendment. Basically, the Fourth Amendment says that you're not allowed to illegally search and, you know, seize people and their property and things like that. And, you know, her being a citizen, so that's what they tell us, right? A citizen of the United States, they violated her being a citizen. So as far as the church is concerned, they're being sued for negligence. You know, like the pastor threw a cloth over her mouth as she was being detained and violently arrested. You know, just like I have so many things going on through my head, but let me finish what happened. All right. So the officers, there was 5 of them, were put on administrative leave. And then after the autopsy came out saying that Miss Northington, she was massively obese. That's what they were saying. For one, she was massively obese. She had an enlarged heart, and oxygen not going to her brain was one of the reasons why she succumbed to her injuries. Not necessarily the fact that one of the officers had their knee in her back as they, you know, were handcuffing her, and her face was down in the shag carpet. And so we've heard that story over and over again. They being the powers that be, the coroners and all of that, the DA, they absolve these murderous officers of what they do to people. Now, again, remember, it was a mental call, a mental distress call. Miss Eleanor was in mental distress. And, you know, the police should have, since they send them first, I don't know why they don't send a medical professional or a mental health counselor or somebody, I don't know. But they send the police officers. And if you know you're dealing with somebody with a mental health crisis, why deal with them in that manner, right? And the other part, and so I don't understand why we continue to call the police on our people, knowing that it's probably not going to end up well for them, right? This is a whole woman who was murdered in her own church, mind you, called the police. The church called the police on this woman who, sounds like she was a member of the church. And then the pastor throws the cloth over her mouth. I have so many questions. And listen, I'm not trying to be funny here, so please don't take this the wrong way. But I'm thinking, like, if you go to church and, to me it sounds like maybe she was going through some spiritual things. What happened to praying for people, laying hands on people, putting some oil on them, or try? Because, like, most people, I think if they are having some mental issues, don't you go to church? Don't you go to church and maybe talk to the pastor and somebody's there maybe to help you, but to call the police on you, and then you are, essentially murdered for having a mental breakdown? And I would think also that the church knew she had some, documented mental issues as far as schizophrenia and bipolar disorder. But I just thought church was supposed to be a safe haven. But you call the police on them, and then you help the police? You help the police by throwing a cloth over her mouth? Like, where do they do that at? I mean, apparently they do that at Mount Calvary Apostolic Church there in Indianapolis. But that is just, like, we have no friends. We have no friends. We don't have friends in the church. We don't have friends in the police department. It's like, where can we go and get help and feel somewhat safe, right? And so I wish Deasia Montgomery, that's her daughter, luck in suing all three of them. I hope she sues the pants off of all three of them and gets lots of money for what they did to her mother. It's ridiculous and sad and horrible all at the same time. I mean, I couldn't imagine that happening to my mom or anybody while at church. And so you guys, it was news to me that this happened, and I looked and I didn't see a lot of people talking about it. So perhaps it's news to you, but we are definitely going to follow up with this story of Miss Eleanor Northington, who was murdered at church by the police. So anyway, you guys, for more insightful commentary, please subscribe to this channel for more insightful commentary. Peace.